Good afternoon. Hi everybody. Start of a new project, and I'm excited about this one because it means I can use up a few parts from a certain crashed model, which I'll tell you about in a minute. And well, it's in my hand here. I won't show you though. Perhaps you can see it. I'm not sure. Anyway, I'm going to start a new project. It's not going to take long to build. That's the theory anyway. So it's a quick build. It's an all sheet model, sheet wings, 8mm I think, and built up fuselage to contain the fan unit. Let me just bend the camera down and show you what it's all about. Exciting, eh? So what is this model? Well, it's on the front page here. This is February 2022 RCM&E, and the model is the lovely Hawker Hunter from Tony Nyhouse Designs. Following the demise of the Habu, it's given me a lovely 70mm EDF to play with. So turning swiftly into the pages, it comes with a free plan and a reasonably detailed building instructions, just order of construction. It doesn't pose any big deal, but this follows on from I was initially drawn to Tony Nyhouse Designs by one of my subscribers, channel members in fact, T-Dog. He built a Nat, I think it was. Funnily enough, he did it in yellow as well, and it's a pretty good flyer, and this one writes up as being a pretty good flyer as well. So I'm going to put this one together. I think it looks rather stunning in yellow, but not sure I'm going to do it in yellow, but there you go. All of the parts are available from 4Max in the UK if you're interested in that, if you wanted to build this particular model. So here's the plan. I'm cutting all the bits myself. I've extended the plan when necessary by photocopying these bits and sticking them on the end. I've cut out some formers already, obviously not by hand. Here's my Habu 70mm EDF unit, which is a good screamer. That'll fit in that one there. This cable out of the way. That'll fit in that one there, which goes back here. And I'm going to start by cutting out the fuselage side, which is this part here. And they'll stick directly onto the formers and very quickly build up into a fuselage. So without further ado, I'm going to start cutting this side here. They are 36.5mm deep. There's 1/4" square stringers go all the way down between these bits. So first thing though is to cut out these fuselage sides. To measure that and cut it is the easy part, but I have to also cut a wing slot in it. I could pin prick it, of course. It's 36.5 and this is 75, so I can get 2 out of here, but I haven't got much room to wood to spare. I believe a laser cut kit is available if you don't want to cut the parts yourself. The pin prick's marked out, so let's just have a look at that, because I've had this idea to build this model for some time, but while the Habu was flying nicely, and to be honest, after the nose getting knocked off, it was repairable, but I didn't buy it new. It was a pretty beat up model when I got it, but it did give me the taste for EDFs, so it's absolutely served its purpose. I can't say any fairer than that. Okay, now just trim out the wing and we'll be able to duplicate the other side. So as some of you know, if you're following Chris on Dad's RC channel, then you'll know that he's also building a Hunter, but I think it's an old West Wings kit he bought on eBay. So it's a bit more complex construction than this one, because it's built up wing, but the wing slides in here. So I think the construction is pretty much the same as the Nat. that T-Dog built. Okay, that's one side done. You notice I'm supporting the rule by using another piece of wood here. If I didn't, then this is going to be flopping all over the place, so it's a good idea to do just that. So all I'm doing is lining up the dots, and when they start to peel away from the rule, that's where I just go to, and then further, then I move the rule. Okay, so here's the wing section, ultimate wing section, and I'm just going to duplicate this part now. It's a fuselage side with wing cutouts, so I'm going to duplicate that, and yes, look at that, I've got about 2 mil to spare on that, so that's really nice. I'm just going to mark the former positions on here, and then I can lay that down and start gluing formers on, and very quickly we're going to have a fuselage taking shape. I've made a boo-boo. Well done, Cliff. Yeah, I saw that as the end of the former, but because it's not, it's because the line is drawn past the edge, that means it continues. So I've got, there you go, so that bit there, oh look at that, very nearly there. So I'm going to have to, I was going to splice it on, but I think it'll be okay butt joined, and I can always strengthen it on the inside if necessary. So there you are, don't make that mistake if you're going to cut your own bits. Obviously that joins onto there again for the same reason. You see that is cut square, that's the end of it, because that's got a line going like that, and that fits on the end. Let me glue these on, guys, and I'll be back with the correct fuselage side length. Okay, so what I've done is I've joined the fuselage sides, butt joined them, but also beefed them up one side with a piece of 1/32 ply. That should be sufficient. If I use CA glue, then I can just strengthen it with white glue either side. It's quite important to get this in exact position. Okay, and the other one is this one back here. Just double check. Yeah, that faces the bottom, so that goes like that. This side, that's those two formers in. That's a great big opening, isn't it? But then the wing will be gluing to the fuselage sides here, so that will be keying it all together. And go for it, because as long as everything's square, it can't really go wrong. So that's my theory. What I will do though is just get that roughly in the right place, there and there. It's roughly in the right place. Now I just start squaring it all up. That wants to come forward a tad. It grabs pretty quick, this glue, so you can't afford to go too slow. Right, we'll let that set, guys, and come back to it in a bit. Oh, she's coming on, guys. I'm just placing I'll put the rear former in, and I'm just doing the same to the front former. What I'm doing, I'm just spotting it in with CA, then I'll run some white glue down there, but that looks okay. That looks pretty good. The thrust tube has to be made before I can fit the stringers. So I have fitted the motor. How does it fit? Well, you cut a couple of 6mm plywood bearers for it to sit on, stick them in the position. I did that simply by putting a fan in the hole and then getting it wedged up nice and level, and then just glued the blocks in upside down. So now the next stage, that's fitted now, the next stage is to fit the bottom half of former 8, and that just fits in there. That is pretty good. So we'll just let that flash off. Now I've also, while you've been away, I needed to find some plastic to make the exhaust tube from the motor down to the outlet. The plan suggests a piece of 140 thick micron acetate. I looked around the shed. I had a feeling I had something, and I dug this out. Absolutely perfect. It's too scratched up for a nice. I probably kept it for cockpits, but it's too scratched for that. But anyway, I've laid it on there, cut out a piece over the top, and then you stick it on the motor and get a nice tight fit around the motor with a bit of sticky tape. Then you fix your motor, and then you put this back in and fix this to the motor. Just like that. This is the underneath, so you have the join at the bottom, like that, and then you put it back over the motor, about 1/2 inch, like that. And of course it just overlaps and tapers down to the end. Now this is fixed with a couple of blobs of hot glue suggested in the instructions, at least in the magazine article, and that is sufficient to hold it. So I just put a dab of hot glue on the top there. One there. See, thrust tube in, and it does feel pretty solid. I haven't deduced why this rear former is showing having only 1/8 inch deep cuts, but the side panelling has to stick to the flat areas, so it's got to be recessed. So what I'm doing, I'm just notching those where they need to be notched. So I'm just notching this with a 1/8 piece of balsa or ply with a bit of sandpaper stuck on the bottom. I'm just going down halfway, just a quick check. But I need to get an answer to the shroud problem before I can glue these in, because once these are in, there's not going to be much room to get a shroud in. So, of course, in the Habu jet itself, this shroud was moulded into the polystyrene. So that was the way it was sorted out there. Okay, guys, this is interesting. I can't glue these in until I've got a intake lip on this EDF unit. When it was in the Habu, the moulded foam went right into it. But if you've got an open, but if you've got an open intake like this with various intakes coming in, there's some cut in here above the wing, there's a great big one in the bottom cut in. When you've got different intakes coming in, you need a input lip taking the air in, and it makes it 30 to 40% more efficient than just that. So I popped the question on the RC groups and got some good answers. Thanks guys for that. One link took me to a page full of these things. Hard to know exactly which one, whether it would fit anyway, but I thought it might be a bit of fun, as I do, in making one up out of balsa. So my plan is this. I've got a gap around here of about 8 mils, something like that. This gap here, I'll use a pointer. So from the bottom of the stringers to the fan unit is about 8-9 mil, 9 mil perhaps. A little bit more on the sides, a bit less up here, but I've got to go with a smaller size, so about 9 mil. And I need a curve that takes it in, so it's got to be straight here and then a nice curve going over. So I thought I would have a go at I'll cut a circle out on the laser out of, I don't know, 10 mil balsa or something. Cut a circle out and have a backing piece and a mount in the middle and then I'll just try turning it like I did with the wheels and the cowling for the Sopwith triplane. Turn one up. If that works, great. If it doesn't, then I'll buy one. I mean, they were only cheap, but I don't want to wait for postage. I want to crack on with this. So, and it's a bit of fun, isn't it? So I'm going to have a go at making one. And as soon as I've got one mounted in the drill, I'll come back to you and you can see how I get on. Okay, this is what I've got. I've cut out 3 discs, glued them all together. The back disc is plywood and it holds the spindle, which is going to allow me to turn it. The inner disc is slightly bigger diameter on the inside, which will fit over the fan, and the outer disc here is the same diameter as the fan, the inner diameter. What I plan to do is to put this in my drill and try and turn this section, well, primarily on the inward face, and get a nice curve going in. Yeah, it's looking pretty good. I'm just going to take a little bit more off on that angle there, I think. Right, so I think I'm going to stop there. I finished it off a little bit by hand on any high spots, just looking at any shadows. I've just soaked the whole thing with CA. I'm just going to sand that smooth. Right, now I have to separate it from the back. Now I put quite a lot of glue on because I didn't want it to separate while I was using it, so we'll see how we get on here. If I cut into the bolswood a little bit, it won't matter because that face is back. Yeah, okay, so that's discarded. Let's see if it will go on. And there we are. Just sits there. So now the inside of that is flush with the tube because I've stepped the inner diameter a bit. So I'll glue that on and then I can get the stringers in. Happy days. Okay, the stringers are in. Here we go. I'm thinking I might just glue these on with CA and white glue here and there. It's a beautiful aeroplane. It's a lovely scale model, isn't it? Hawker, I mean it's Hawker for goodness sake. I'm using white glue here because this is where the motor's mounted and it wants to be a little bit stronger, I think, on that bit there. So I'm going to white glue that like that. We'll just fit the rest of these guys and enjoy myself. This is great fun. Very satisfying. This is very satisfying indeed. I think it's sort of satisfying because it reminds me of sort of vintage models in a way. Right, so that's the top. Yep, that's the top done. I'll turn it over and do the bottom, and then I can start thinking about the sheet. By the way, I steamed these. As you can see, it's quite a curve, so it just takes the pressure off the formers and everything if you steam it first. It didn't take a second just to steam it and hold it, but well worth doing. So you stick on these, you've got to cut them and taper them, so take a little bit of work. Top and bottom each side, and then when they're dry, then you can cut them flush and sand it flush at the top, ready to receive the 1/4 inch top and bottom. So I'm going to go and play with that, but really pleased with how that's looking now. It's looking more like a well, looks a bit like a jet, I suppose. So the other thing I've got to do is the battery support tray. The battery support tray goes on these 2 square flat bits inside. I'll just support the battery tray nicely. Right, a couple of scraps of wood there, support the battery tray, and I'm going to now look for some 2.4 balsa and start cutting out the fuselage sides. Okay, I've just cut a battery tray and glued it in place and weighed it down, so it's had an hour now. So let's just pop off. I've epoxied that in, of course. Just pop off. I've also stuck on some Velcro, but I've put tape over it to stop all bits of sand, sawdust, etc. Sticking to it. So there's my battery tray in, 1/8 light ply. I put a little strengthener underneath it, but yeah, so good time to put it in. So now I can continue with the sheeting. Oh, while that was drying, I've cut out some rudder and fin parts and elevators and stuff, so I can glue those on as well. Good progress. The piece of wood that I'm putting on here, which is one of the side planks, if you put it on that way, it looks sort of straight. You can sort of put it on, but I've made life easy for myself and put a slight curve on it, sanded it, and also put an angle on the bottom to meet the piece of wood here, and also damp the outside to get the wood to curve. So it's taken me a few minutes to do that, but I'm going to glue it on now. I'm going to use white glue. Okay, now that bit there I can actually put a peg on, which I will do, just to hold that, clamp it initially. Put a couple of pegs on there, the pegs out. Let's just put loads of pegs on here quickly. Right, that's that taped up. I'll just put a couple more pegs down the side here, and that will be good. We'll let that set off, and then we can do another side. The join is angled. It's not too bad. It's not perfect. I will have to put a little bit of filler down there, no doubt, but it's not bad. I think it was worth tailoring the side a little bit to get it to go around. Hopefully this is pulled in quite a lot with the masking tape, because there's nothing between there and there, but it should spring out again. So yeah, there we are. That's one piece on. This is 2.4 mil, the 3/32. It's going to make one very, very strong fuselage hat. I think what I'll do is stop the video here and carry on getting this planked up, and then in the next video we'll start off by having a look at what I've done and maybe sanding the top and bottom, getting the top and bottom sheeting on. So yeah, pretty good progress, quite pleased with it. Hasn't taken very long to get to this stage. Very pleased with the inlet ring on the fan. Hopefully that will be sufficient to suck air through. Thanks very much for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next video. Cheers, part 2. Bye. Excellent.